What are you doing on this side of the camera? It creeps me out.
Well, I came to confuse the enemy.
Anyway, today we're going to travel back in time and trying to make the original Bolognese or ragu Bolognese.
Or at least as much as we can do, because there is a big confusion throughout the history.
That's true, because the Bolognese that you know is most probably a tomato-rich meat sauce, and delicious as that is, it has little to do with the original recipe.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah, it
so
is.
we're gonna get introduced to our most beloved sauce.
We're going to show you. And now if you scoot out of here so I can get started with my sofrito.
Chop in peace and quiet.
Thank you. And that consists of equal amounts of celery, carrot and onion, in this case 400 grams each. And this we're going to chop up into some, let's say, medium-sized chunks here. Split the celery down the middle and then give it a quick run through here with our knife.
You know that sofrito means in Italian sauté.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and in France it's called mirepoix, and it's exactly the same thing actually. And then we move on with our pancetta that we're also going to cut into small cubes, I would say.
I don't think that's also very common today, right?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the typical tomato-based bolognese that I have tried, they don't have any pancetta, but originally this was there. So now we're going
I look forward actually to try that version.
I think it's going to be good.
Yeah.
So we will chop all this up and then we'll see you at the stove, because this is the rest of the prep work. So big pot on the stove, cold as always, and we add in our pancetta. I'm using stainless steel pot here. I would avoid using cast iron because it will cook for a long time, and then with a little bit of acidity we have in the sauce here, then it will take out iron taste. So stainless steel is your friend here. And then we start it up on low heat and we let the pancetta slowly come up to temperature, so we render the fat and crispen up the small beautiful chunks. Our pancetta is nice and ready and rendered out, and look all the nice juice and fat we got out in the bottom here. That's going to give a lot of good flavor to this. So we just need to fish them out now. Ah, they are looking good and it smells amazing, this pancetta. It's really good, really good. Next up, I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of clarified butter, because it has a high smoke point and I want a little bit more fat in here for the meats. And for our meat component, we have a kilo of minced beef from the palate section of pork skirt steak or outside skirt. That's what we need for this. And a kilo of minced pork. This would be a rather traditional mixture, but you could also go with veal. That would also be considered a traditional bolognese as far as I have been able to research. Now we want to let this go here and we want to crank up the heat so we get some browning.
So you get all the combination, beef,
Yes.
pork, and then pancetta
Yeah.
on top.
I have even seen recipes where they do 1/3 pork, 1/3 beef and 1/3 lamb. But I don't think that goes back to the original recipe.
Yeah, plus to be honest, I don't like lamb in mince
No,
meat.
no, I agree.
I'm
But
afraid.
this, we're gonna, now what you see happens is you get some initial browning, but then it starts coming out a lot of water. So now we just keep on with our spoon here, breaking it up into small pieces, and then when the water evaporates, we will start to get some browning. So this is a little bit labor intensive, but it's well worth the effort. And when all the water is gone and you start getting some browning like you see here, then we want to turn down the heat to minimum. And then we're going to take out the meat. You don't want to take it too far here because it will cook a long time after this in the sauce, but you want some browning on some bits here to get some nice flavor in the sauce from the Maillard effect. But we scoop this out and we continue with a healthy knob of butter into our pan and let that start melting. You don't have to wait for it to melt all the way, but there is a little bit of meat chunks left. That doesn't matter. They will brown up and give some extra flavor. That fond in the bottom here, that is the best flavor for such a sauce here. So let this melt That's fine. It can melt along. Then we go in with all of our sofrito. Now we want to let this sweat out and saute until it gets nice and soft. And you want low heat here. You don't want to brown it because it's not what we're looking for. We're looking for sweating it out, sweetening up the onion and the carrots. And that will take a good 10-15 minutes here. Our onions and our celeries, they are nice and soft, and I don't want to take them any further. Don't worry so much about the carrots because this is going to cook for hours and hours in the sauce, so they will be soft and very, very tender at the end. Now comes our only tomato component. I'll make space here in the middle, and then I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of tomato paste. In the 1891 recipe that was written down, this was not used, but it was introduced a few years later. Let me give it all because we have a lot of meat. So there is only that little bit of tomato as compared to
today's bolognese.
Yeah, where it's mostly tomato and then meat. So this we're going to cook out in the middle here. Remember always to cook out your tomato paste. It has kind of tart, raw taste that will remain unless you let it cook on its own in the middle. It's quite important.
Like a couple of minutes or so.
Something like that, yeah. And if you notice, there is no garlic in this recipe, which most people...
Sofrito, I don't think
no, exactly, because
garlic,
the saying is that the garlic will overpower all the other flavors in this. So that's at least as much as I could figure out. Well, this is nice. We're going to mix everything together. And as you see, we still have a lot of fond in the bottom of the pan here. Now that we're going to take care of in 10 seconds.
That's what wine for.
Exactly. So get this mixed in. And then we are going to add white wine. Take a nice bottle of white wine. Not crazy expensive, but something you would drink. And I would say we go in for this portion with about half a bottle. In reality, I would go in with more, but we are trying to stick to the tradition here. So about half a bottle of white wine. And then we deglaze the pan with that, and we let it reduce a bit while the alcohol cooks off. And that will lift up all the fond we have in the bottom and create a lot of flavor. You see how it's releasing now the fond. And as I said before, after a bit of cooking, the bottom is completely clean, so we have all that flavor lifted into our sauce. Then we go back with our pancetta and all of our minced meat. And we do it in this order. I'll explain that in a second. There we go. Give it a good mix. And it's time for chicken stock. And the reason I do it in this order is because I want to see the consistency. I'm not sure exactly how much I want to add at this stage. I might even want to take some more than I have here, but that's another story. Because we want it to be rather thick, and then we want it to cook out and simmer slowly.
It needs more,
Yeah, for sure. And if you don't have any more, I do. But if we don't have any more, you can also add a bit of water. That won't change anything. But now we're at a stage where we want to bring it back to a simmer, and then we will add probably as we go a little bit more chicken stock so we keep the right consistency, and this will have to simmer for at least 2 to 3 hours because you want the meat to gelatinize actually. But traditionally you would use salt and pepper, obviously, so we give it a pinch of salt now. We will taste later for how much exactly. Pepper, freshly ground black pepper, healthy pinch of that. And then a small stick of cinnamon. You could use nutmeg, but the tradition calls for cinnamon. So we dump that in.
I love cinnamon in red sauce.
No, it's good. And then a little trick that's probably not traditional, but we always do. We add a couple of rinds of Parmesan to the sauce. That gives a nice richness.
At least it's Italian.
That's for sure. So we're going to nestle them down in here, and then we're going to let it cook and simmer for 2, 3, maybe even 4 hours. We don't know. This is a weekend project. This is not for Wednesday nights. So see you in a couple of hours. I had to move the pot to a smaller burner because the big one there, even on low, it was boiling way too way too much. So now on the small burner here, it's been simmering for hours. And now we have, as you see, a very thick sauce. The meat is starting to gelatinize and it's looking good. It smells good also.
It does.
It does. But first up, now the Parmesan has done its job. So I want to get rid of those. And now it's time to add the milk component. But before we do that, I want to give it a taste just to see where we are in salt. And the pancetta is actually coming through in the smell a lot, actually. It's very good.
Good one.
No, that's damn good. It's very different from the tomato bolognese that we all know.
The one what we're used to it.
Yeah, but it needs a pinch of salt. Something like that. And then we're going to give it some milk. I spoke about the milk component in the beginning. And when we put the milk, it's going to look a little bit offsetting. But trust me and stay with me, that will change. So we're going to put in some milk. I'm not sure about how much exactly we're going to put. Not even half a liter. And then we try to mix it in and then we see how it looks. Because it becomes a little bit
weird.
Color. Yeah, exactly. But it's actually what you want.
It will come together, I think.
Exactly, that's the point. And now we want to have this on very low and we want to let it simmer for about half an hour more until the sauce has the perfect consistency that we're looking for. And the reason for the milk coming in this late is we don't want to put it in early because then we denature the milk proteins and then it gets an offsetting taste. So in with this and then we let it simmer for 30 minutes while we warm up some pasta water. See, as I told you, now the sauce looks absolutely perfect and that's exactly what you want. So now it's time to throw in our pasta. This is tagliatelle and we only need to boil this for, I don't know, 6 minutes maybe. It's durum wheat. Let's put in for a nice portion of this, like that. And that will be finished, as I said, 6 minutes, I would say. And then we finish all of this off in a pan. So, our pasta is done, just half a minute shy of being ready, so it's really al dente. And then we have a pan, and we preserved some of our pasta water. We're gonna take a nice spoon of our beautiful sauce here, or two. How much pasta do we have? Make it good and luscious. And we're gonna add a ladle, half a ladle of our pasta water, because that will make everything stick together and in with our pasta. And now we're going to let this go on high heat. And the starch from the pasta water, that will help the sauce to stick to our pasta, is going to be a beautiful portion. Well, definitely looks different than the bolognese that I'm used to seeing growing up and stuff like that, but I already tasted the sauce and I know it tastes good, but let's give it a try here with the tagliatelle, which is the pasta you want to go with, by the way, not spaghetti, because it doesn't really, it's too thick, the sauce, it won't stick to the thin spaghetti. So let's give it a try. It's good. It's actually super good. Many layers of flavor from the sofrito and the
It's rich.
and the pancetta. Yes, it is. It's very rich.
But what would you choose?
To be honest, next time I'll probably go with a more modernized version with more tomato added. It's good. It's rich. It's flavorful. It's cooked correctly. Everything is as it should be. But I prefer the more modernized version. More tomato, it gives it just, I don't know, it's more what I'm used to, let's say. But either way, it was a fun experiment to try to make the original one. And, well,
Give it a shot.
give it a shot if you're up for it.